Fossil fuels. We use them all the time in our day-to-day lives. Fossil fuels are created by dead plants and animal matter buried deep in the Earth's crust. They have provided us with non-renewable source of energy since the 18th century. We've been pumping them from underground for well over 200 years. We have to find an alternate source of energy and give off less pollution. The human race is fixed on the idea of convenience. We use fossil fuels every day in our vehicles, our farm equipment, our construction equipment, and our homes. We use about 58.4 million tons every day. Fossil fuels contain high percentages of carbon and include petroleum, coal, and natural gas. What do you think the world will look like in 500 years, considering the amount of pollution that is being released into the environment every day?
I think that if the governments decided to get on top of this problem and focused on using less fossil fuels, that we could have a much more dystopian future. Whereas if we don't and the pollution just becomes worse and worse, perhaps we could even become extinct.
I think people are going to have to live somewhere else. Maybe create something out in space or find an undiscovered planet and live there, because most of the people that we know today are just going to be dead. And their families for centuries dead.
Higher levels of carbon dioxide, however, do have an indirect effect on the ozone layer in the stratosphere. What effect it has varies on which atmospheric layer it's in and on the latitude. In the lower stratosphere, closest to the surface and close to the equator, increased CO2 is slowing the production of new ozone, especially in the spring. But near the poles and the upper stratosphere, CO2 is increasing the amount of ozone by preventing nitrogen oxide from breaking it down. Do you think that we use too much fossil fuels in our daily lives?
Absolutely. 100%.
I do, because not most people think of this, but it's for everything. It's for heating, it's for transportation, cooking, even some of the products get into like our household, like chemicals and stuff.
We have already found ways to use an alternate energy source like the sun. Solar energy has the ability to be used right now, but the people in power have money in the fossil fuel business, and that is why it is not used everywhere. Because the people in power want money, even though the source of that money won't last forever. We may not fully be able to get rid of fossil fuels entirely, but there are ways to use less and create less pollution, and even the use of LED lights can begin this process. It uses less energy and lasts so much longer than the other bulbs, and with the use of less energy, it burns less fossil fuels, so it even saves money in the long run. Biofuels, or biodiesel, is an alternative to fossil fuels when driving your vehicle. To convert a diesel engine to a biodiesel engine is rather cheap and somewhat simple. You'll need to add another fuel tank, which can be the most difficult process that can switch between the fuel tanks being used. In the first tank, you need to have the diesel to start and turn off the engine, but for the driving portion you can run on biodiesel, which is made from vegetable oils and animal fats, and that needs to be held in the second tank. Biofuels are nothing new in the fact that they've been used as long as cars have. Henry Ford originally designed one of his vehicles, the Model T, to run on an alternate fuel, ethanol. And people have been running diesel engines on vegetable oil much longer than they have been running diesel engines on petroleum-based diesel fuel. Rudolf Diesel, the inventor of the diesel engine, originally designed it to run on vegetable oil. In fact, one of his early presentations at the World Exhibition in Paris back in 1897 had a diesel engine running on peanut oil. The burning of fossil fuels is one of the main pollutant creators. Pollutants that come from the combustion of fossil fuels include sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides, ground-level ozone, particulate matter, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, and many others. These pollutants contribute to smog, acid rain, and many other health, economic, and environmental issues. Do you often think about what you are doing to the environment whenever you drive a vehicle or run your furnace?
I do, so I try to walk a lot of places. Like if you're just running up to the post office, why don't you run up instead of saying, I'm running to the post office and getting in your car and driving. And if I have stuff to buy, I make a list and I only go into Grand Prairie at the most once a week. I don't travel back and forth every day.
For our activist piece, we created a Twitter account to try to get the word out about fossil fuels and convince people to use less fossil fuels. And we also were able to convince some people in our class to walk to school and walk home from school instead of using a car. And at my home, I personally changed out my light bulb in my closet to an LED energy efficient light bulb to use less energy, which in turn uses less fossil fuels.